When the silence stretches long enough, something magical happens. He expects you to come crawling back, to reach out in a moment of weakness. But here's the twisting. You're not coming back the same woman. You're stepping into the unknown with a move so unexpected, it will make him question everything he thought he knew about you. This isn't about playing games. This is about stepping into your power. When you walk away and embrace no contact, most people expect you to come back when the silence becomes too loud, when loneliness creeps in. But what they don't see coming is the transformation that happens in that silence. Reclaiming your power isn't just about staying away from them. It's about finding your voice in the quiet, rediscovering your value, and realizing that you are enough. You're not waiting for an apology. You're not waiting for validation. You're not waiting for them to notice your absence. Instead, you're using this time to become the strongest, clearest, and most unapologetically you version of yourself. When you step back into your own space, you start to see that the relationship wasn't defining you. You were defining the relationship. You start to remember the dreams you had before you became wrapped up in their world. You reconnect with the things that make you feel alive, the passions that were pushed aside. You realize you don't need their permission to shine. This is the shift that makes all the difference. You stop chasing them and start chasing your own growth. And when they look back, they don't see the person they thought they could leave behind. They see someone stronger, someone more self-assured, someone who doesn't need their attention to feel worthy. It's not about playing hard to get. It's not about revenge. It's not about showing them what they're missing, even though they will see it. It's about you. It's about building the life you want, regardless of who's in it. Because real power isn't loud. It's quiet. It's in the choices you make when no one's watching. It's in the discipline you show when you stick to your boundaries, even when it's hard. It's in the way you carry yourself. Not with arrogance, but with quiet confidence that says, I know who I am, and I'm proud of it. When they finally reach out, expecting the same dynamic, expecting you to fall into old patterns, they'll be met with a surprise. They'll see someone who has grown beyond needing their approval, someone who has learned to love themselves without conditions. And that is the move they won't expect. Because the truth is, when you reclaim your power, you stop being predictable. You stop reacting to their cues and start leading with your own. You walk back into any room, any conversation, not with a need to prove something, but with a sense of presence that speaks louder than words. You become the kind of person who doesn't wait for closure from someone else. You decide because you've already given it to yourself. You stop waiting for them to make things right because you've made peace with your own heart. And that's where the real shift happens. Not in their realization of what they've lost, but in your realization of what you've gained. Your sense of worth, your sense of self, your sense of direction, it all becomes clearer. And in that clarity, you're no longer chasing. You're attracting. You're not the one reaching out. You're the one they can't stop thinking about. This isn't a game. It's a transformation. It's about standing tall in your own power, so that whether they come back or not, if you decide, you're more than good, you're unstoppable. And when you move from that place of strength, the move you make next, whatever it may be, it will be the one they never saw coming. Because it's not about them. It's about you. Finally realizing that your worth isn't tied to their attention. It's tied to your own ability to see yourself, to honor yourself, and to never settle for anything less than what you deserve. That is the move that redefines everything. When emotions run high, we tend to act without thinking. We react instead of responding. After a period of no contact, it's tempting to let those emotions take over. The urge to reach out, to explain yourself, to seek validation, it can feel overwhelming. But that's the move they expect. They're waiting for the moment you break down, for the message that says, I can't do this anymore. But what they don't expect is clarity. They don't expect you to lead with purpose and a sense of direction that has nothing to do with them. That's the real surprise, the realization that your feelings aren't running the show anymore. You are. When you choose clarity over emotion, you step out of the reactive cycle. You stop letting their words, their actions, or their silence dictate your next move. Instead, you get clear about what you want, what you need, and what you deserve. You become the architect of your own life, not a character in someone else's drama. And the best part, You don't need to shout it from the rooftops. Clarity is quiet. It's steady. It's the calm in the storm that leaves everyone wondering how you're so composed. This doesn't mean you stop feeling. It means you stop letting those feelings control your decisions. You honor your emotions, but you don't let them dictate your direction. When you reconnect, whether it's a conversation, a chance encounter, or even a reply to a message, you do so from a place of groundedness. You've already decided what you want from this interaction. You're not fishing for closure or chasing approval. You're showing up with a clear mind, knowing what you will and won't accept. That's the move they won't expect. They're used to seeing you flustered, confused, maybe even desperate for answers. But now, you're the one who's prepared. You're the one who's done the inner work, who's asked the hard questions of yourself, and who's willing to walk away if the situation doesn't align with your values. You know what you want and what you don't. And that level of clarity is rare. It's powerful. It shifts the dynamic from one where they have the upper hand to one where you hold your own. When you lead with clarity, you also remove the drama from the interaction. You're not playing games. You're not trying to manipulate or control the situation. You're simply showing up with integrity, with an understanding of your worth, and with a calm confidence that says, "This is where I stand." It doesn't matter if they're ready to meet you there or not. What matters is that you've drawn a clear line and you're not crossing it for anyone. This is the part they never see coming. They expect you to be emotional, to be vulnerable, to be easy to read. But when you show up clear, centered, and calm, it throws them off balance. It makes them question their assumptions about you. And more importantly, it forces them to confront their own behavior. Because now, they're not dealing with someone who's tangled up in emotions. They're dealing with someone who knows exactly what they're doing. This kind of clarity doesn't just change the conversation. It changes you. It changes the way you see yourself. You realize that you don't need anyone else to tell you who you are or what you're worth. You've already decided that for yourself. And in doing so, you reclaim your power. You stop waiting for someone else to lead the way, and you start leading your own life. So when you make that unexpected move after no contact, let it be one of clarity. Let it be a move that reflects the inner work you've done, the strength you've found, and the vision you've created for your life. Led with clarity, not emotion. And watch how the whole dynamic shifts in your favor. After no contact, it's easy to focus on them. What they're thinking, how they're feeling, what their next move will be. It's a pattern we fall into because we're looking for answers or closure, trying to make sense of everything. But what if you shifted the focus entirely? What if, instead of wondering about them, you started focusing fully on yourself? That's the move they won't expect. Instead of placing them at the center of your thoughts, your energy, and your decisions, you put yourself back at the core. And when you do that, everything changes. Focusing on them keeps you in a loop. You check your phone, reread messages, overanalyze conversations, hoping for some sign of change. But in reality, you're giving them all the power. They're not even doing anything. If you decide, and yet they're influencing your emotions, your mood, and sometimes even your decisions. It's like handing over the keys to your mind. But the moment you shift the focus to you, your growth, your peace, your goals, you reclaim that power. You stop letting them live rent-free in your head. You stop needing their validation to feel whole. When you make this shift, you start asking different questions. Instead of wondering, will they come back? Do they still care? You start asking, how can I care for myself better? What dreams have I been putting on hold? What kind of person do I want to become? These questions aren't just distractions from the pain. They're the roadmap to healing and transformation. You decide. They point you back to your own life, your own potential. It's not about pretending you don't care about them. You decide. It's about realizing that caring doesn't mean sacrificing your own well-being. You can care, but you don't have to center them. You can care, but still prioritize your own growth. And when you do, you start to see that the answers you were looking for were never in their actions. They were in your own ability to choose yourself. This shift also changes how you show up in the world. When you're focused on them, your energy is scattered. You're waiting for external signals to tell you what to do next. But when you focus on yourself, your energy becomes intentional. You start to move with purpose. You take care of your body, your mind, your heart. You pursue your goals not because you're trying to prove something to them, but because you're proving to yourself that you're worth it. They won't expect this shift. They're used to the old version of you, the one who was preoccupied with their every move, the one who needed their attention to feel valued. But now, you're not waiting for them to notice you. You're noticing yourself. You're showing up for your own life. And that shift in energy is powerful. It's attractive, but not because you're trying to be attractive. It's attractive because it's authentic. When they see you thriving, not because you're trying to make them jealous or win them back, but because you've genuinely invested in yourself, it creates a different dynamic. It shows that you're not just surviving without them. You're growing, evolving, and living a life you're proud of. And whether they come back or not becomes irrelevant, because you're not living for their approval. You're living for your own joy, your own purpose, your own fulfillment. So, after no contact, make the move they won't expect. Stop focusing on them and start focusing on you. Build the life you want, pursue your passions, connect with people who uplift you, and cultivate the kind of inner peace that no one else can give you. That's the shift that changes everything. Not because it makes them come back, but because it makes you realize you never needed them to feel complete in the first place. You just needed to come home to yourself. After no contact, the natural temptation is to reach out, to explain, to show them how you feel. You want them to understand the pain, the growth, the transformation you've gone through. But what if instead of giving them those answers, you left them guessing? What if you choose silence, poise, and unpredictability instead of explanations and vulnerability? That's the move they won't expect, leaving them wondering, curious, and uncertain about where you stand. And that's where your power lies. When you leave them guessing, you're not playing games or trying to manipulate the situation. You're simply refusing to give them access to your thoughts and emotions. You're no longer an open book they can read whenever they please. Instead, you become a mystery, one they can't quite figure out, one they can't predict. And that unpredictability is powerful because it disrupts their assumptions about you. They expect the old you to come rushing back to offer clarity and reassurance. But instead, they're met with quiet confidence, with boundaries, with a version of you they didn't see coming. Leaving them guessing doesn't mean ignoring them out of spite. It means being selective about what you share, how you engage, and when you choose to do so. It means responding when it serves you, not because you feel obligated. It means communicating with intention, not desperation. You show that you're not waiting by the phone, not lingering in uncertainty, but living your life fully and unapologetically. You're creating space where they have to wonder, what's going on with them? How have they changed so much? This silence isn't cold or harsh. It's composed. It's the kind of silence that speaks volumes because it shows that you've outgrown the need to explain yourself. You've shifted the dynamic. Now, instead of them being the one you're focused on, you've become they're trying to figure out. They're the ones asking questions, feeling unsettled by your calm and your distance. They're the ones realizing they no longer have the influence they once did. When you leave them guessing, you protect your energy. You're not wasting time explaining your boundaries or justifying your decisions. You're not begging for closure or clarity. You've created that for yourself. And that, in turn, if you decide, makes you more attractive, not because you're trying to be, but because you're showing strength, self-respect, and independence. You decide. You're showing them that you don't need them to feel whole. This shift can be unsettling for them, especially if they're used to you being available, predictable, and emotionally accessible. But that's precisely why it's so effective. It forces them to reflect, to question their assumptions, and to consider what they might have lost. If you decide, and while they're caught in that loop of uncertainty, you're busy building a life you love. You're focused on your growth, your goals, your joy. You're investing in yourself, and that's something no one can take away. Leaving them guessing also gives you time to see things clearly. Instead of being pulled back into their narrative, you're writing your own story. You're gaining clarity about what you truly want, about who aligns with your values, and about the kind of love and connection you deserve. If you decide, you're no longer seeking answers from them because you've realized that the answers were within you all along. So after no contact, don't rush to fill the silence. Don't rush to explain, to apologize, or to prove your worth. Let your actions, your energy, and your silence speak for you. Leave them wondering. Leave them curious. Leave them realizing that they never truly understood your strength, and that now they may never get the chance. Because you've moved on, not with bitterness, but with quiet confidence and the unshakable knowing that you're in control of your own story. The natural instinct when we feel rejected, hurt, or ignored is to chase. We want to show them what they're missing, prove our worth, and make them see how much we care. But here's the truth: chasing never works. It only pushes them further away. It only makes you look like you're desperate for their attention. And more importantly, it leaves you feeling powerless. The move they won't expect after no contact is not to chase them, but to show them through your actions, your energy, and your growth who you truly are. There's a silent power in showing instead of chasing. When you focus on yourself, on building your life, your confidence, your happiness, you become a walking example of everything they didn't expect. You're not trying to prove your value, you're living it. They'll see it in your eyes, in your posture, in the way you carry yourself. You're no longer trying to convince them of your worth because you've already convinced yourself. That shift is undeniable. If you decide, it draws people in without you needing to say a word. Think about it. When someone chases you, do you feel more drawn to them or do you pull away? It's human nature to value what feels self-assured. What doesn't need us for validation? By stepping back and showing through your own transformation, you create a magnetic pull. Decide, they start wondering what changed, what made you so confident, so clear, so different from the person they thought they knew. And that's the move they didn't see coming. If you're not coming back the same, you're coming back transformed. This isn't about playing hard to get or pretending to be something you're not. It's about real change. It's about doing the inner work, healing the wounds, and reconnecting with your own purpose. You decide, you're showing them that their presence or absence doesn't determine your happiness. You do. And that's powerful. Because when someone sees you thriving without them, it makes them reflect on their own choices. It creates curiosity, even respect. They can't help but wonder how you became so grounded, so whole. But this isn't a show you're putting on for them. It's for you. When you stop chasing, you free yourself from the exhausting cycle of seeking approval. You stop putting your happiness in someone else's hands. You take responsibility for your own joy, your own growth, your own future. And that's when everything starts to shift. If you attract better opportunities, healthier relationships, and a deeper sense of peace, if you decide you're no longer trapped in the cycle of needing someone to complete you because you've completed yourself, they won't expect you to show up this way. They'll expect the same old patterns, the anxious texts, the emotional outbursts, the disparate attempts to reconnect. But when you come back with grace, with calm, with purpose, it catches them off guard. They'll see the change not because you told them, but because you showed them. And that's the real power move. The truth is, chasing is exhausting and ineffective. It leaves you depleted and usually pushes the other person away. Showing, on the other hand, is empowering. It centers you. It reminds you that you don't need to run after anyone to prove your worth. You just need to be yourself, fully and unapologetically. You need to live your life, pursue your passions, and build a reality so fulfilling that anyone looking in can't help but notice. After no contact, don't fall back into the old patterns of trying to get them to see you. Let them see you by how you live. Let your actions, your growth, if you decide, your energy speak louder than any message or plea. You don't need to chase when you're already standing in your power. You just need to keep showing up as the best version of yourself and let the world, including them, catch up. If you decide, most people don't realize how much they allow others to set the frame of their lives, especially after no contact. The moment communication resumes, they slip back into old patterns, reacting to the other person's mood, tone, or behavior. But what if you did something different? What if you didn't react at all, but instead set the frame yourself? That's the move he won't expect, and it changes everything. When you set the frame, you decide the rules of engagement. You decide what you will and won't tolerate. You decide how you want to feel, what boundaries you'll uphold, and how you'll show up. You're not waiting for his text, his call, his explanation to dictate your day. You're not waiting for him to offer a crumb of attention so you can feel validated. Instead, you've already decided how you feel about yourself and your life. You've already chosen your direction. This isn't about being controlling or manipulative. It's about being anchored. It's about refusing to let someone else's behavior dictate your emotions or your choices. When he expects you to respond immediately, to be overly available, to fall back into familiar patterns, you do the opposite. You respond when it feels right for you. You engage on your terms, not his. You ask yourself, does this align with my values? Does this serve my peace? If the answer is no, you don't react. You redirect. You shift the energy back to yourself. And this is what he won't expect. He's used to you reacting, texting back quickly, getting upset, chasing closure, trying to fix things. But now you're not chasing at all. You're not waiting for him to lead, you're leading yourself. You're showing him, and more importantly yourself, that you're in control of your emotional state. Decide you're creating a space where you're not at the mercy of his choices. This move isn't about playing hard to get or being distant for the sake of it. It's about recognizing that you can't control him, but you can absolutely control yourself. You can control how you show up, how you speak, how you respond, or don't respond. If you set the tone, you set the pace. And by doing that, you shift the dynamic completely. Imagine how powerful it feels when he reaches out expecting the old you, but instead finds someone who is calm, confident, and clear. Someone who isn't looking for validation or permission to feel good. Someone who knows their worth and doesn't need anyone to tell them what they should think or feel. That's the move that leaves him questioning, not because you're playing games, but because you're standing in your own power. The truth is, when you stop reacting, you reclaim control over your life. You're no longer on an emotional roller coaster driven by his behavior. You're grounded. You know that your happiness doesn't hinge on him. You've created a solid foundation within yourself. And that's why he won't expect it, because it's not about him at all. It's about you leading with clarity and intention. When you set the frame, you create the environment in which the interaction takes place. You're no longer a passive participant. You're the architect of the conversation. And whether he steps to meet you there or not, you'll be fine, because you've already decided the kind of energy you want in your life. You're not waiting for someone else to set the terms. You're creating them yourself. So when no contact ends and the opportunity to engage arises, don't slip back into the old patterns of reaction. Take a breath. Remind yourself who you are and what you stand for. Then engage, or don't, from a place of strength and clarity. That's how you set the frame. And that's the move that changes the game.